Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP Shadowheart light domain cleric build in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3, which introduced some very cool synergies that we'll be taking advantage of in this video. This is going to be the ultimate defender. We can get ourselves an extra reaction to use the warding flare on ourselves or on our teammates. We can also get counterspell and globe of invulnerability, so we're going to be the most defensive support, but also dish out a lot of damage ourselves. This is a really fun build. We'll first start off with the light domain cleric, as it's a really useful build early on in the game. I recommend grabbing Toll the Dead, as it's a wisdom save, which is a little bit easier to land on goblins, and Sacred Flame. And then you can also grab Bursting Sinew, Guidance, or Resistance here. I like to have Guidance early on in the game. Into Act 2, Produce Flame is really useful too. If you can change to High Elf cantrip, I'd recommend grabbing Booming Blade early on, but we'll just leave it as that. Now, the light domain gives us the Burning Hands and Fairy Fire, but Warding Flare opposes disadvantage on a target that attacks you. At level 6, we can do it on our teammates. So this is extremely useful because disadvantage means they're much more likely to miss with their attacks, and we got some other ways to make them miss too. This is a multi-attribute dependent build, as we do need wisdom for the cleric spells, but if we add in the wizard, we get a lot of huge buffs to this class, and this will require intelligence to make work properly. So you can go with, there's 3 items that we could use. There's the Gloves of Dexterity in Act 1, the Constitution Amulet in Act 3, and the Intelligence Circlet in Act 1. This will set your intelligence to 17, dexterity to 18, or constitution to 23. One of these items is likely best to use, but if you're going with this without anything at the start of the game, you can roll with these stats here, and then alternatively add in the Circlet of Intelligence a little bit later on. It just depends what item you want to use and other items that you're using for your other characters. If we're, let's say, dumping Constitution, you're going to remove that to 8 and put those points into Intelligence to bring it up to 14, or if you're dumping Dexterity, put that into Intelligence. But if you're at the start of the game, it doesn't really matter because we're just going to stick with the light domain cleric here for the most part until we level up a little bit later on. Now, at level 2, we get the Radiance of the Dawn. This does a 2d10 plus 1 radiant damage, and it dispels magical darkness. There's a few times where this is useful, but yeah, it's a nice option to have. We get to prepare our spells here, so I'd always recommend having the command spell. Guiding Bolt's nice too because it does radiant damage. Sanctuary makes sense for a light domain protector. Create or Destroy Water if you have teammates with lightning or cold spells. And then Bless or that there. It's your choice. I like to have the bonus action heal as well. Healing Word, just useful. At level 3, we get a very useful spell with Scorching Ray. Extremely effective, high damage. It's a very useful spell to have. And we get to take things like Hold Person and Spiritual Weapon at next level. I'd recommend grabbing both of those, Hold Person being a very useful spell to have. And there's actually gear that we can have that'll actually boost things up and make it easier for us to land that spell. We get to take a next cantrip at level 4, so this is when we want to take Produce Flame. You can produce a flame and hold it until long rest, and it'll give you a light in Act 2. And then for our next level spell, we can go back and take Bless, or you can take Aid for the upcasting healing that it provides. Alert for the +5 initiative is a good choice if you want an early game feat. But we can also go with an increase to our wisdom or to our intelligence, depending on where we're going to be going. We also could early game take the Warcaster's feat, which give you advantage on saving throws. Kind of nice to have, but I like to go with an increase to one of the stats here, with intelligence being more able to provide more of wizard spells. Wisdom will give you more cleric spells, and dexterity will just give you more armor class and initiative. But I think the best to take up our intelligence a little bit further. Into level 5, this gives us Fireball. It's a very useful spell. And then we also get Spirit Guardians, which is extremely useful. We can then also grab Mass Healing Word 2 to heal everybody all in one go. Spirit Guardians has radiant damage, and it's going to apply radiating orbs once we get to that. It's extremely effective to have, but we can go with some of the other options if you prefer. I just think Spirit Guardians is one of the best spells in the game. Level 6, this is when we get improved Warding Flare and disadvantage an attack roll for your entire team. And if we get 2 reactions, that can be a lot of extra survivability for everybody. And at this point, I think it's best to add back in Bless or Aid here, if you're able to get the Aid, because it's just good extra ability to add in more health. Now, it's nice and tempting to grab Wall of Fire, but I think the best way to go about this is, again, adding in the Wizard here. This can give us some pretty useful things. I like to take Mage Hand, because it can throw health potions for you, and then you can drop potions that are free action, and it can throw them at your team to heal 4 people at a time. It's actually a very effective way to heal the team. Bone Chill is nice, too, to stop the target from receiving healing. Minor Illusion's also pretty effective. We'll grab Booming Blade because there is a lot of ways where Booming Blade can be pretty effective if we wanted to do melee. And then Bone Chill, just stop the target from receiving healing. Now we can grab Mage Armor there. It's a good spell to have. Thunder Wave, Shield, Find Familiar, Grease for crowd control without concentration. False Life is nice to give extra health, can be useful. Magic Missile for the guaranteed damage is also a nice spell to grab, just because sometimes you need just a few health off of an enemy, and that can be a good way to do it without using Scorching Ray. Level 2. Now, there's a few ways we can go about this. The Abjuration Ward is kind of a nice ability, but I think Blade-Singing Wizard actually adds a lot of extra benefits to this build that makes it fun and also powerful to take. So we'll be going with that. You could also go with the Evocation here to protect your teammates whenever you cast spells, or Necromancy if you want to heal yourself, but Blade-Singing I think actually ends up being the best. We also can take things like Long Strider, increase movement speed, and Chromatic Orb, not a bad spell. Pick whatever weapon you prefer here, just gives you a free weapon, nothing too major there, but the thing with the Blade-Singing Wizard is we can learn spells from scrolls, and then we also get two melee attacks, and this actually goes together very well with a Spirit Guardian setup. For our spells at level 2, Cloud of Daggers is not a bad choice. If you want to maximize survivability, Mirror Image to increase armor class by 9, and the Misty Step to teleport is great. And then you can also grab Shadowblade, as Shadowblade is a really good spell, to be honest. It's the best melee weapon in the entire game, because it can be doubled easily. We'll also get ourselves another cantrip. Minor Illusion can be good, or Friends, if you're Shadowheart Origin. And then for the next level, you don't have to take Shadowblade, but this is extremely effective. Darkness powers it up, but we don't really need to go that route. We can take Shadowblade here, and then go up and take something like Cloud of Daggers, or any of the other spells there. And prepare. I would recommend having at least the Mirror Image and Misty Step on. Shadowblade being extremely useful though. At this point we can go with an increase to our intelligence here, or alert, or a plus to our dexterity. Your choice at this point. At level 5 here, Wizard, we get access to level 3 spells, and we're going to take Counterspell. Here's why. There's a weapon in this game that'll add 2 reactions. We're not going to use Shadowblade for the purpose of this build, should clarify, but it's a good option. You can't learn it from a scroll like you can other spells. We'll also take Lightning Bolt, Haste being another good spell too, but we'd rather have Spirit Guardians up. Counterspell. 2 counterspells can basically make this game a lot easier. And then you have the improved Warding Flare as well, so it's great for protecting your team whenever they may need it. And I guess we'll remove Shadowblade there and put on the Fine Familiar. The weapon that we'll be using is an Act 3 item. I'll get to that in the gear in a second, but extra attack here, so we can attack twice per action is really good. Then we also get options of like Haste, Fear, Sleet Storm. Take whatever, because we're going to learn the rest of our spells from scrolls. So those are good. Now there's actually a lot of really good gear for Shadowheart here. For helmets, we want to set up radiating orbs. So there's a couple pieces of gear in this game that are great at that. So the luminous gloves, which are considered clothing. Whenever the target deals radiant damage, the target will receive 2 turns of radiating orbs, giving a -2 to the enemy's attack roll, stackable up to -10. So if the target has disadvantage on an attack roll and a -10 to attack rolls, they are not going to hit you. The Holy Lance Helm further takes this even further, because when the target misses you, they take 1d4 of radiant damage if they fail a dexterity saving throw, which will proc that. It'll proc this. And then I also have the Boots of Stormy Clamor here, which is Reverberation, which if the target is reverberating, Thunderskin Cloak, if the target attacks you, they must succeed a Constitution saving throw or become dazed. Dazed meaning they have disadvantage on wisdom saves, so we can hit them with commands, hold persons much more freely. If you don't want to go with the Holy Lance Helm, there are some other options, like you can go with the Haste Helm early game. Hood of the Weave is a good late game option. So you can go with either of those there. Even the Pyro Quickness Hat will give you an extra bonus action if you do fire damage, which we got Fireball. And if you want, you can go with the Cloak of Protection, but this one here is really effective. Now, the problem is the Luminous Armor is medium armor. So the big problem here is we actually get a lower armor class because we can't use the Blade Song. Although this is the best option for a Cleric, the thing is, we don't have to use the Blade Song because this gives us a +3 to armor class, +3 to your Constitution saving throw, so you're more likely to hold your concentration. But then we can also just add in a shield at this point. The Duelist Prerogative is better if we don't have one, because you get an extra reaction for not having the shield. So there is some complications here, because if you're using Luminous Armor, you're better off using Light Armor here, which allows you to go into the Blade Song. And the best option for that is the Ballast Armor, because this allows you to go back into your Blade Song here. But with this, you can get it on a good playthrough, I guess. It's a late game option. Other options would be to go with a clothing based option, like the Vest of Soul Rejuvenation or the Robe of the Weave here. So if we went with the Robe of the Weave, then you can go ahead with taking something like Mage Armor. There's also scrolls of Mage Armor that you can take too. And we even have the spell here, so you don't have to use a scroll, but sometimes it's just nice to keep your spells. The problem is, whenever you apply Mage Armor, you do have to take off something like your helmet. So the Hood of the Weave now is going to be our best option, because we can't use the Holy Lance Helmet. It's a medium armor. So that'll put our armor class up to 28. And then if we take our Blade Song, that puts up to 21. And then with Haste, it's 23 armor class. It's not bad. There's also many other gear that we could use to give ourselves that. But if we don't want to use a clothing option, let's say we want to use light armor, then we would use the Ballast armor, and the helmet of arcane acuity, which will give you +10 upwards of a +10 to your spell save DC, so we land every single spell that we cast. And this will make it so that targets are vulnerable to piercing damage, which is what the duelist prerogative deals. Then we also still have the luminous gloves there. If you have a paladin, they can use the Crusader's mantle to apply radiant damage to your attacks as well. And then the boots of reclaimer still stays the same. So it all depends. We can go a few different ways with this. If we want to wear the luminous armor, I think that the best way to go about doing the luminous armor would be to go with the luminous armor with the sacred star here, which does radiant damage on hit, and it also applies radiating orbs. The luminous armor will create the radiant shockwave, same as this, so you can get literally with spirit guardians and a single melee attack, that's 10 stacks of radiating orbs. You do forego your blade song, but you still get the extra attack. You just lose that +3 to armor class, which we got from the shield, and then we get a +3 to constitution saving throws. But with the amulet of greater health, you'll have advantage on constitution saving throws, which is really nice to have. So that can keep us alive here. The big thing here being is we apply radiating orbs. The only thing is this is a strength-based weapon, so you'd have to use like a strength potion to make this viable. But with this, we have we got one reaction when we apply radiating orbs on all of our attacks, and then we have spirit guardians as well. This is really nice, but again, medium armor does cause some complications. I think that this ends up being my personal favorite because we can go with the duelist prerogative. It all depends on what gear you have, because there's a lot of different ways we can go about building this. But the extra reaction, so that's 2 warding flares or 2 counter spells. We still apply radiating orbs with the luminous gloves. We apply conditions with boots of stormy clamor. We apply the aura of murder, so that any arrow base, if we have someone that shoots arrows, they get double damage on their attacks, and it also actually overcomes immunities. The thunder skin cloak pairs well with this, and then the helmet of arcane acuity makes sure that we don't miss our attacks. I like this combination the best. It's entirely up to you how you go about it, though, with those different pieces of gear that I did mention. Then we also got the coruscation ring, which applies radiating orbs whenever we deal damage with a spell. This even means fireball. And then we also got the whispering promise, so whenever we heal a target, they get a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls, which is nice. And then the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to initiative. Again, though, you can use the robe of the weave plus mage armor. You just have to remove things like the helmet of arcane acuity and put on like the hood of the weave instead. So those 3 different pieces of gear depending on medium, light, or clothing-based options. And don't forget, you can learn spells from Scrolls of the Wizard, so you can get yourself Chain Lightning, Wall of Ice, Globe of Invulnerability, the Oda Luke's Freezing Sphere, my favorite. Globe of Invulnerability, as I mentioned, being a very effective spell to have, so we want to have that. And another option, if we're going to go with clothing, take the Robe of the Weave and then the Hat of Fire Acuity, because Scorching Ray can give you a +10 to your spell save DC, so we never miss a shot. Make sure that you do have your wizard spells prepared as such, so we want to make sure Globe of Invulnerability is super useful just for survivability's sake. Chain Lightning, always a nice spell to have. I also like to grab the Cone of Cold spell, which just does a lot of damage. And if you don't want Chain Lightning, the Odaluk's Freezing Sphere is just as good because it creates difficult terrain. Enemies slip on it, and if they end up slipping, that's just a turn that they don't end up having. But always make sure you have counter spells set here. And one last pro tip is we can grab the Mark Hesker or Staff of Spell Power for the Arcane Battery, and then because we have the Aid spell, we can go with an upcasted 25 healing, so this is going to give everyone an extra 25 health. It's insane. And then just swap back to your regular weapon. Now we can get our armor class all the way up to 32 using Mirror Image here. We get the Blade Song active, Robe of the Weave, Haste, Dexterity, Mage Armor, and our base armor class, so decent survivability. Now for our first turn in combat, we want to spread those Radiating Orbs as much as we can, so we're going to use this opportunity to just run around. Spirit Guardians, it stacks Reverberation as well. So we got a stack of that on there. Yeah, you want to move around as much as possible. If you get into an opportunity where you get stuck there, you can just go with a melee attack. We also can spread Radiating Orbs by using things like Scorching Ray, which is really nice because we can we can apply that to a large group of enemies. So it's better to use it on someone that's far away when you don't have someone near you. So something like this can work well. We can drop a Fireball right here. Boom. And that applies the Radiating Orbs as well because of the Coruscation Ring. Now we want to get rid of this target so we can run towards this one and knock them out with just they have low health, so we can take them out with the Spirit Guardians. So we also have melee attacks, and we got a bonus action melee attack from this weapon. So we can use the Duelist Enthusiasm here to make an attack on a target. And that was enough to take them out. The Withering Cut will do additional 4 damage, not enough to reduce them to 0. So we'll eat the opportunity attack because they got Radiating Orbs, and we'll hopefully disappoint. Yeah, we didn't get hit with that. And then we can run over here, burn them away, and then apply Radiating Orbs on this target here. So 4 stacks, pretty good. We'll now use Scorching Ray because we're away from targets, so we don't have the disadvantage there. And the thing is, Scorching Ray will actually give us, from the Hat of Fire Acuity, a pretty big boost to our overall spell casting. So we'll go with the critical miss there, unfortunately. But with the Hat of Fire Acuity, that got our spell save DC up to 26 now, so it's a plus 10. 26 is a really good spell save DC, and that took out multiple targets there. So that's exactly what we want to do. If you got any movement speed left over, you can run by people to further stack that up. We want to try and apply as many radiating orbs as possible in combat. So getting into prime positioning like this is ideal. And here's a great use of the improved warding flare. Since we have 2 reactions, we want to use this more than usual. So impose disadvantage on the attack. They rolled a 23, so this is going to turn it into a miss likely. And it still hit them, unfortunately. And here's where warding flare can save us. They were about to hit a critical hit, and we can turn that into a miss. So there, we actually got a use out of it. 2 reactions is nice. This is a useful ability to have. Same thing, we also have counterspell as well. And on our next turn, we want to run in, take out this target here. Duelist Enthusiasm will not take this target out, but we can get into a position where we're able to use the Scorching Ray and hit a few targets again. So we can go with peppering them and then hitting this target here, hopefully taking them both out. Didn't take either of them out, but we applied Radiating Orb, 6 stacks and 9 stacks on them. Scorching Ray is a big source of damage for us because it gives us the Arcane Acuity, but it also will apply Radiating Orbs on everyone that we hit, and 2 per blast, so it can be pretty good. That target has a -9 to their attack roll, so we can eat that opportunity attack. They're not going to hit us, you can see. So yeah, we want to try and stay as mobile as possible. We actually applied Reverberation there. They saved on it, but they still took the damage. And we also have level 6 spell slots. We can also use Lightning Bolt to hit multiple targets here. So Lightning Bolt is really good too. I'm a big fan of Ludwig's Freezing Sphere, and that's why we want to take the Wizard, because this gives us a very valuable form of crowd control with an ice surface, and then it also applies Radiating Orbs to every single target there. And then we can finish off this. Hopefully, we won't finish this target off, but we got a critical hit there. Boom, extra damage off on him. We also have the Shield spell, which can help prevent us from getting hit with an attack as well, so that's nice alongside the Warding Flare. And again, improved Warding Flare coming in handy to help protect our allies there, turning hits into misses. Always keep an eye on who walked into your Spirit Guardians, because sometimes you can get really lucky like that. Again, you can use the Staff of Spell Power to give yourself a free version of this too. Now, we see 3 targets in a perfect line here, and this is always a good idea for a Lightning Bolt here, and you can also upcast this as well. That's 3 targets hit, which will apply further Radiating Orbs, which is nice, so we are making it so that they're less likely to hit. We also have the Radiance of the Dawn. Anytime there's darkness set up, you can use this to get rid of that in a large area. Our Spirit Guardians finish them off, so we don't have to worry too much about it. We can then blast away with a Scorching Ray to further stack up Radiating Orbs and then potentially take out a target. Hopefully, yeah, 8 damage, good. That took out both of them. And again, keeping our spell save DC extremely high, and we have 1 target left, so we're great at defending. And then we also have our melee attack here that we can do, the Duelist Enthusiasm, which potentially could, finish them off. So that is what I believe to be the most overpowered Shadowheart build in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3. Adding in that melee combination, which Spirit Guardians benefits from, and then you also have 2 reactions to do warding flares and counter spells with. Extremely powerful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch y'all in the next video.